Guess what came in the mail for me this month? It's Nancy Drew Diaries number 6, Secret at Mystic Lake. Published on May 6, 2014, this book was written by Carolyn Keene, who won the 2002 Tour de France using a recumbent canoe. The premise of the last book was that George hates sports. Well, in this book, George suddenly likes sports again. Continuity! What's that? For her birthday, George is going on a 3-day, 105-mile biking trip at Mystic Lake. Nancy and Bess are going too, but Bess is very reluctant because sweating is just not a Bess thing. The leaders of the trip are a pair of twins named Caitlin and Henry Moorhead. Caitlin is the responsible one who plans for everything and is going to Yale next year. Henry is the lazy one who screws up a lot. He forgot to print out the maps for the trip, and instead of going to college, he's going on vacation. Wait, you can go on vacation instead of going to college? Why didn't anybody tell me about this in high school? That would have saved a ton of money. The other two members of the group are an older hippie named Dagger and a girl named Zoe Ferrulo, who loves One Direction and Project Runway. Zoe and Bess become instant best friends, and they spend all of their time gossiping about TV and shopping. This makes George sad because she was hoping to bond with Bess during the trip. So this book is about a group of teenagers who are camping in the woods with a crazy hippie. I think I saw this premise in a horror film once. When the group stops to have lunch, they leave their gear unattended on the road. Before you can say, that's a dumb idea, most of the gear gets stolen. Everyone votes to keep going, though, because common sense would ruin this book. A rainstorm breaks out that night, so Nancy, Bess, and George all pile into Zoe's tent. George argues with Zoe, and she tries to guilt-trip Bess. It's interesting to see George and Bess take pot shots at each other, but I'm gonna side with Bess on this one. She made it very obvious that she dislikes biking, and she only agreed to join this trip for George's sake. George should be a little bit more grateful. The main plot of this book finally shows up a third of the way through. Early in the morning, Caitlin and Henry get into a fight over a text message. Not long after, Caitlin screams and disappears. The group searches for her for over an hour, and Henry and Dagger get into a minor tiff over what happened. It quickly becomes obvious that Henry is not fit to be a leader. Not only has all of the food disappeared, but Henry has no idea where to find the emergency satellite phone. Henry is the only one with a map of the area, but he gets the group hopelessly lost as they try to reach a ranger station. At the end of the book, we get told that the culprit switched Henry's map for a fake one. However, I still question the fact that the group gets lost while following bike trails. Are there no signs on the pathways at national parks? The fight between Dagger and Henry escalates as Dagger pulls out a dagger and demands to have the map. Zoe confiscates the knife, and after biking for an entire day, the group sets up camp by the stream. While they do so, someone slashes the tires on the bikes. This would have been a lot more dramatic if the back cover of the book hadn't spoiled it for us. More fighting breaks out. Henry and Dagger take the map and go on foot towards the ranger station, while the girls camp here and have a fun karaoke competition. Finally, a break from the fighting. Then, with no prompting whatsoever, Bess and George end their minor fight and become best cousin friends again. That was easily resolved. But the culprits have decided Nancy is too much of a threat! Not sure why. Nancy isn't even close to solving the mystery. Still, the culprits decide to tip their hand and attack Nancy in the dark woods. Nancy runs for her life, and by huge coincidence, she happens to find a canoe. She paddles from the stream to the lake, and by another huge coincidence, she happens to find the cabin with the culprits inside. The culprits are Caitlin and Zoe. Caitlin reveals that she secretly hates her brother Henry. He always gets whatever he wants without trying, while she works as hard as she possibly can, and she gets nothing. Pretty sure a full scholarship to Yale doesn't count as nothing, Caitlin. Caitlin and Zoe met each other at Overachiever Girl Camp. Apparently those exist. And they concocted this plan to sabotage Henry's reputation. They purposely ruined the trip, so Henry will be blamed for everything, while they have a cozy vacation in the cabin at the lake. Caitlin's plan is solid, but the problem is that the entire thing is unnecessary and overly complicated. If the plan was to make Henry look bad, all Caitlin had to do was disappear to her hidden cabin and do nothing. Henry would have messed everything up by himself. There is no need to constantly sabotage the trip and almost kill the campers. The icing on the unnecessary cake is Henry and Caitlin's fight over the text message. It turns out that Henry has a secret gambling debt to the tune of $6,000. Caitlin could have easily discredited Henry weeks ago by making this information public. So why didn't she? Once Caitlin and Zoe finish explaining everything, they decide to lock Nancy in a shed until the trip is over. What are they going to do afterwards when Nancy rejoins civilization and tells the police? Dunno. The high achievers don't bother to think that far ahead. The girls drag Nancy away, but she pinches Zoe in the armpit, which lets her escape. She takes the canoe back to the camping area, she grabs Bess and George, and they run away. They quickly find a car, which belongs to a park ranger. Looks like Henry and Dagger found the ranger station after all. In the final chapter, the girls get breakfast, and we're told the culprits are arrested off-screen. Everyone decides that George's next birthday should be a slumber party. The end. Post-book follow-up. After reading this book, my girlfriend went on a rant about how the criminals in this series are huge wusses. They only commit petty crimes, not real crimes, and their motivations and explanations are so haphazard. It feels like the author makes up the motive and explanation as an afterthought, instead of working out the culprit's plot ahead of time. The book doesn't give a motive to Zoe. In fact, I have no idea why she's Caitlin's accomplice. Caitlin could have easily done everything without Zoe's help. To its credit, the book does a good job of introducing all the suspects and important plot points in the first chapter. It also does a good job with characterization, one of the consistent strong points of the series. Even if the characters tend to be general stereotypes like hippie, screw-up, and valley girl, they are still interesting to read about. I'm on the fence as to the fight between Bess and George. It's interesting, but it doesn't go anywhere, and it just sort of ends. On a side note, this book bears a strong resemblance to Nancy Drew Files number 6, Whitewater Terror. It's a sporting/camping trip where the equipment is sabotaged and the food is stolen, leaving the group lost in the woods. One of the two group leaders disappears, only to reappear as the culprit. The similarities between the two books are probably just a coincidence, but it's kind of odd that book number 6 in two different series have so much in common. I'm giving this book a 4 out of 10, the below average score. As always, I'm removing 1 point because the book is double-spaced to make it twice as long. Even the Nancy Drew series for 8-year-olds doesn't pull that trick. So that means my final score for Nancy Drew Diaries number 6, Secret at Mystic Lake, is a 3 out of 10.